Bright Mensah, an appeal court judge, has been nominated for the Supreme Court. It's 40 minutes after 8. It's only 20 minutes to the top of the hour 9 here on Sunrise on 3FM 92.7. Yesterday marked the end of the BECE. As I told you earlier on Johnny's bike, I was working in an office somewhere, and one of the children, after writing his papers, just ran across the park, spread out his arms and said, maybe it took me back to many years. But we want to take a look at the fallout from this exercise that we just had, which has become a national annual I don't want to call on the event. It's an exercise so that our children at the basic school can graduate and get into the second cycle institutions. But of concern is the conversation around parent-teacher associations. You know that in the not so distant past, we did not have parent-teacher associations. We had parent associations. For whatever reason, explanations were given, whether they're tenable or not, I don't know, but what were your own thoughts, we don't know. I've been joining studio by Gabson Kweku Raphael. He's the General Secretary of the National Council of Parent-Teacher Associations. He's in studio. Sir, good morning. Thank you for your time.
Good morning, Johnny. And on behalf of Ghanaian parents, we thank you and your cherished listeners and the management of this great platform for the opportunity to engage you this morning.
Great. We're happy that you could join us this morning. And Mr. John Kapi is also the head of public affairs of the West African Examinations Council, is joining us now. Mr. Kapi, good morning. Thank you for your time.
Good morning. Thanks for having me.
Great. Let me begin this conversation with you. Yesterday, our youngsters completed their BECE examinations, and they were all happy. I saw the jubilation here and there. What would be WAEC's initial reactions? Was it smooth?
Thanks for having me. Yes, on the part of the council, we would say that we had a smooth examination. All our materials were prepared on time. Every single candidate who registered the examination and availed themselves had the opportunity to write. We did not have any situation where any candidate could not write any of the exams because of maybe in default on our part. So I would say that it's been a successful examination.
Were there any challenges that were encountered along the line in terms of exam or practices, people not showing up? Let's look at the numbers first before that, even those things. How many males sat for the exams? How many females?
Sorry, in total we had about 603,328 candidates who sat for the examination. There were about 259 males, and the females were a little above 300,000. I don't have the exact figures where I am right now.
Right.
So that's the total candidature for the country. And then we had about 1,668 candidates who wrote as private candidates.
Would you say this year's BECE is an improvement upon last year's BECEs in terms of exam or practices? Would you say that?
No, I wouldn't, because the number of reports that we received, some official, some from anonymous sources, I would say that a number of the invigilators who were, assigned the job, a number of, at least we picked up one supervisor, one assistant supervisor. There were also 2 head teachers who were picked up, and a number of invigilators who were picked up with mobile phones on them, having taken snapshots of the question papers, and either circulated on social media or sent to individuals also on WhatsApp. So I would say that the level of sophistication as far as examination malpractice concerned is quite alarming.
But how are these invigilators and supervisors selected? I thought that they went through a rigorous process before the examination, correct?
Yeah, usually what happens is that with the BECE, and indeed all the exams that we conduct, we do that in collaboration with the Ghana Education Service. Now, we have taken up the job of getting the questions, moderating them, doing the typesetting and all of that, and then we bring it to their doorstep. What we ask them to provide for us is invigilators and supervisors.
Right.
And so, on their part, these are the ones they felt could do the job, but our personnel in the field found a number of them not actually up to the task.
Did any of the students miss their exam? While the exam was in session, are you able to share if you have those details, sir?
Yeah, so there were a number of them. The ones that I'm aware of, I think there were these ones who missed the exam because they were involved in an accident in Tamale. About 8 of them who could not sit for the examination because they arrived when the exam was over. I'm told also that there was this girl in Wa who was stung by bees and missed one of the papers. There was I think 1 or 2 of them who had children. They put to bed in the course of the examination.
Right.
So these are the few ones that we have received information about.
Now, in terms of the reaction from parents and other stakeholders about these recurring events of exam malpractices, now it is invigilators and supervisors who are aiding the children and teaching them literally. How do we curb it? Do we have a plan yet?
Yes, on our part, as a council, we've been trying to introduce a number of measures that to prevent this kind of thing. All of them have budget implications, but then for the objective test, we started with the serialization. Plans are far advanced for us to replicate same with the essay tests, so that candidates will have, or candidates in certain areas will have questions that are similar, others will have questions that are not similar, just so that there wouldn't be this temptation to attempt to assist them. Going forward, we're also considering computer-based testing. But then, so we're going to pilot that with the small exam that we conduct, just to see how effective it would be before we think about the larger number of candidates that we normally test in our examinations. Then also, for this year in particular, we deployed a higher number of monitors to go around and ensure that sanity prevailed. We also organized our stakeholder engagement just to make people understand that this issue of examination malpractice is not going to help our education system. So the conscientization, the other technical things that we are doing are all things that we are looking at, hoping that they would help us curb this canker of examination malpractice.
The curriculum, understanding is that saw a bit of change. Did that influence the examination, and would you say that we could have waited a bit?
Well, the change in curriculum usually is a government policy. It came, I think, over 3 years ago, because those who wrote last year wrote using the new curriculum. And the candidates were taken through it because, things are changing around the world. Education is changing, and we can't afford to remain behind. And so some of the things, especially issues about practical learning and being able to apply their knowledge wherever they find themselves, is one area that was looked at, and that informed, the introduction of the new curriculum. So I would say that it is not too early in the day. In fact, we are behind a number of countries across the world. And so once our teachers are able to grasp the principle, I believe that will help us a lot to improve upon our educational system.
I'm looking at one of the papers. It has a question on King Paluta, whose real name is Thomas Eje Reku. He's a Ghanaian musician known for combining traditional rhythms, storytelling, and modern hip-hop beats in his music. One of his most popular songs, Asida, carries deep messages that address important issues in the Ghanaian society. Identify 2 of these issues. This question does look familiar, like a repetition, something that had been written for Ochame Kwame before. Is that correct?
Well, excuse me, my voice is a bit hoarse this morning. The issue about this, especially this aspect of the syllabus, is to have the candidates studied more like you study poetry or comprehension. The music is supposed to send a message or to bring something to the society. And so it is something that the candidates are supposed to have studied, and then they should be able to, put it in their own words and maybe tell the world what they have learned from this kind of music. So the structure may be similar, but the message would not be the same.
Now, for example, I don't speak Twi. I don't understand Palute's lyrics. Palute's lyrics in that Asida song is just Twi-based. You are asking me to find two other elements that he injected into that song to make it a very nice song for people to enjoy. How is that language barrier supposed to help me in this exam that I'm supposed to pass to progress into the second cycle institution?
Well, we have teachers who are teaching and who know what it is that they should bring, to the candidates so that it will enable them answer these questions appropriately. So on our part, we believe that with the curriculum and with what we've asked the teachers to teach the candidates, they would have prepared them adequately for this particular test.
So you insist that language couldn't have become a barrier?
Language couldn't have been a barrier because certainly the teachers would have been able to teach them. Besides, these things are given to them ahead of time, so they are able to find ways of, interpreting them such that they are able to adequately, examine the candidates.
So, for example, I'm a student in Sege. My local language that I learn is Adan, or Dangbe, if you will, and then suddenly I come and see Kim Paluta, that's asking me to interpret a Twi song, not a Dangbe song, not something that I'm familiar with, my L1. That will be a hurdle for me. It looks like then WAEC is setting me up to fail. Is that the case?
I wouldn't say that we'll set up anyone to fail. Then we'll have no business conducting exams. But the point is that, again, I would not be able to give you specifics as far as some of these little details are concerned, because I have not seen the questions myself. But then what I know is that all of these things are supposed to have been taught. And per whatever examination is supposed to be, you never examine candidates on what they have not learned. Now, if it happens that this is something that the candidates have not learned, obviously we'll have the responsibility for that. But then as far as I'm concerned, we have had the candidates tutored in all of these, and we believe that they are capable of answering the questions appropriately.
Mr. John Kapi, we'll leave it here. Thank you very much indeed for your time. He's the Public Affairs Manager of the West African Educational WAEC, sorry, let me put it that way. Now, Mr. PTA man, let's begin from the last question. It says language is not a barrier in terms of because the students would have been taught, What do you say to that?
Thank you very much, Johnny. I think that he did very well in trying to explain to us from their perspective the nature of the questions and then the circumstances around how they conducted the exams.
Right.
And then also made us aware of the stakeholders who were involved, their role, and then the role of the Ghana Education Service to make sure that at least we have a smooth exams. We as parents, our major concern is that inadequate preparation always leads to poor performance. And I will admit with you that if he tells me the language is not a barrier, then I don't just think that he's being fair to us. Because we have so many languages in Ghana. Why don't you deal with people based on their background and their strength so that they can be able to address the question that comes to them? Because if you are a Ghana person and you can't even speak Ghana, at least the environment is saturated with Ghana language. And there are certain things that they say, you can connect the dots and be able to relate and know that exactly this is what we are trying to speak about. The same person, somebody who is an Everman, somebody who is from probably Boko, who speaks a very diverse community where they speak Kusal, they speak Mampuli, they speak Moshi, they speak all kinds of languages. When you have people in these kind of circumstances and also find themselves in a war-prone zone and you are setting them up for exams, you should look at all this challenges and be able to fashion something that is fit for purpose, that can let them be able to assess themselves based on their strength and based on opportunities that have been availed to them. And I've always kept on saying that every child is a product of its environment. The environment determines the potentials of the child. If the environment is saturated with so much a very conducive climate for effective teaching and learning, the child naturally will be able, with parental guidance and the teacher's support and the community's involvement, the child will be able to know that, look, these things that all the stakeholders are investing in me, they expect this kind of results from me, and it's my duty to learn to be able to produce it. So if you are comparing apples with oranges, you will definitely get the kind of issues that we see happening out there. Definitely, he would defend as a public relations officer. He would do the PR for his people. And that is what you should expect from him. You don't expect anything contrary.
I see.
But he knows better than I do that every year that they conduct WAEC examinations and then the chief examiner's report comes out, it tells you how inadequate the children were not prepared for certain responses that they were expecting. And they flag these things back to the teachers, to education, the stakeholders in education, to be able to look at it. But one thing that pains us as a National Council of Parent Teacher Association or as PTAs is that when they are doing the stakeholder engagement, they don't involve us.
Why?
I don't know.
Do you have a problem with GES or
I
Ministry of
don't know.
Education?
Maybe now things will change because we've seen some goodwill from government. And that's why we need to commend the government.
How long have you been absent from that table?
We've been absent from that table as way back 2018, 2019.
I see.
Yes, from that time we've not had opportunity.
What did you do?
What did we do? People want to engage in what I call state capture.
I don't understand.
If I say state capture, it's as simple. You are a media house.
Right.
There are rules of engagement. You work within the rules of engagement.
Right.
We are an association. We are parents. Nobody can be more Catholic than the Pope. You cannot love our children more than us. So you don't bring policies that, excuse my language, it is our own taxpayers' money that we contribute, and you come and beg us and plead with us to give us our authority. And we give you part of our authority that come and lead us and serve us. Then you take over the mantle and you decide to say that you don't want parents and teachers to have a common platform to share views that will help us identify the strength, the weaknesses, the opportunities, and the threats in the educational system, and we'll be able to speak to it.
How did that hurt the system, the educational system? Tell me.
So much.
By what percentage?
As much as I can say that, 50 to 60% of our challenges in education is.
Are you sure?
Yes, we are suppressing parental voice in education. And that's the most powerful voice in education. Because, Johnny, excuse my language, you are a journalist, but you are a parent first.
Right.
Anybody who is listening to us, whether from the formal or informal sector, the person must see himself first as a parent. And your parental role goes with you even into your grave, and that legacy remains with your child forever. Because when your child does well or fare well in life, they will mention the parents who were able to mold that child, and they'll also mention the community that the child is coming from, and they also relate it to the country.
Okay.
So every child is first of all educated from the home, and then related to the school setting. So if the home and the school come together to make sure the child gets the best of education and intervention, the schools are named after communities. So if schools are named after communities, and you expect the community's heart not to be in the school, the only way the community's heart can be in the school is the parents whose walls are in the school. It is where your heart is, where your money is. That's where your heart is. Where your investment is, that's where your resources are. Let me bring in
Dr. Peter Patianti of IFES. Doc, good morning. Thank you for your time.
Good morning, Johnny.
The BECE ended yesterday. What would you say are your initial thoughts regarding the entire exercise?
Well, I think that we did have a smooth exercise, despite the challenges that have been recorded. Where our children were able to write their exams as planned. There were a few incidents here and there, but we would say generally it was okay. There are issues that we will have to pay very particular attention to. And I think as we go on, I will highlight those issues.
Okay. I want to hear from you at least, because we're just discussing one of the issues that I thought was important. For example, I saw a question on Kim Palute's song Asida. For those who are not lettered in Twi, they will find it difficult because if they even enjoy the song, trying to find out the elements in the song that WAEC is asking them to identify in order to qualify to, pass the exam, that would be lost on them. Or are parents exaggerating that, well, my child doesn't speak Twi, why are you setting up a question for my child in Twi? Are you setting my child up for failure? What do you say to that?
Yeah, I think it's a legitimate issue. I will even say that. And what about those who have not even heard of the song at all? So these things are supposed to be in the curriculum and featured in the textbooks. So if it is in the textbook, I mean, King Palute's song is in a particular textbook that all students are exposed to, then you would have a justified cause to say that, well, because every student is technically supposed to use this textbook, then the question would be ideal for everybody to answer to. But you ask yourself, is it available? I mean, is this available in a textbook, and are all the students exposed to the content of this song and other things before they will be able to respond to? So for me, I don't know whether it's in their textbook. I think it's a new song. It
right.
came last year, right?
That's right.
So right. I don't know whether it's in
not last year. Last 2 years actually. Last 2 years.
I mean the song.
Yes, last 2 years.
Oh, okay. So I don't know whether it's in any of their textbooks, and I don't know whether they have been exposed to, because one of the things I was going to raise was the nature of questions that came this year. I have had a lot of interactions with the teachers, and most of them are expressing frustration as to the alignment between the curriculum and the questions that are being set. And one of the exercises that we are doing is to do a very line-by-line analysis of the items as against the curriculum to see really whether the items were emanating from the curriculum or not. Because from the teachers that I spoke to, especially teachers of career technology, and I think you can, when you open your lines, you can invite some of the teachers to attest to this. I'm told that the questions that came are things that are not in the curriculum. And I'm asking myself, even at the university, when you are testing students, you test them according to things that you have taught them. If you want to ask an application question, that application question should have its basis from the curriculum. You don't have to set questions outside the curriculum and expect the students to do well. And this might be a case with the Asida song that we are talking about. So right. I think that issue needs to be taken seriously. Why cannot continuously set questions outside the curriculum and expect students to perform well? I don't think it is fair for them to do that.
Now, the conversation about exam malpractices also came up, where invigilators and supervisors have been picked up for directly aiding the students, some taking in phones to, supply answers to the students, some sharing questions ahead of the exam on social media, WhatsApp platforms, etc. It's a recurring thing. Every year we keep hearing about it. Will it ever stop from where you sit?
I don't think it's going to stop. I've seen a social media video where one of the candidates was thanking invigilators that things that they didn't understand, the invigilators...
Right. That young lady.
Yeah, you've seen it, right? Yeah,
I've seen it. It's a young lady.
She's just showing appreciation to the invigilators. But this means that it's been happening, and for this, invigilators, they were not caught. They were not caught by anybody. So you see the challenge. Some people would benefit from examination malpractice, get their grades and move to the schools that they want, and others will not. And that gives us a very unfair playing ground for our case. I think that a lot has been done to reduce the extent of examination malpractice, but we need to go a step further and do more so that we'll be able to bring this to the barest minimum. And that's why some of us think that we we still have to have this conversation about the future of the BECE, because you see, that I was telling you that the BECE is just a 1 point data that gives information to the policymaker as to where the student continues his education.
Right.
But if we have a process where you can have a 2 or 3 points, then you know that even if I don't do well in A, I will do well in B. Or 0.3, and I'm going to get the average of these 3 marks to be able to place. And in doing that, I think we'll be doing good to ourselves by reducing the extent of examination or practice. But as it stands now, it seems that it is becoming part of the exams, and it calls to question the credibility of the performance that the students will be putting up.
I see. Now I'll come to Gabson in the studio, but let me ask you that. This whole conversation about the inclusion of parents in the mix of raising the children, Gabson tells me that 2018, 2019, that was when they literally were cut off. We cut off PTAs, and that was it. I know that you spoke about it. Nobody listened. Nobody paid attention. How did that hurt our children? And by extension, the educational system, learners and teachers and everybody else involved?
Well, I think that that decision, I still do not understand the rationale behind that. Unfortunately, the Minister of Education mentioned that the PTA is fully reinstated, and then the President recently even reiterated that point. So I think that issue has been dealt with. But before this statement and reinstatement, we know that there's been serious issues with their abolishment, because you can't take parents away from teachers in terms of the start, progress, and development. You will need these 2 stakeholders for accountability purposes and for collaboration. So if you decide to take them off, then you are just saying that you don't have a role to play in the whole educational system or the school that your ward is in. And how can you even say that the parents alone can meet? What are they going to discuss? Because whatever it is that they want to discuss, from the teachers handling them. So when they talk about parents association, I was wondering, what are you going to discuss? Are you going to discuss issues among yourselves? And when you finish, you send it to the teachers or the school authority, and they also will sit somewhere and then discuss. And then when they finish, they will bring it to you. And it didn't make sense. In fact, I don't know. Sometimes people and the things that they can do. So I think it's a good thing that we are getting them back. I hope that they will contribute to reducing the extent of indiscipline in our schools. And see, I'm even thinking and recommending to YX that they should start thinking about the parents and the students as their customers.
Right.
Now, if they are doing that, as soon as they finish the exams, they should do something like an exit poll, collect information from the students and the parents about their satisfaction of the conduct of the exams, and this report should be made available every year. And I think that in modern times, this is what WAEC needs to do, so that they will get the information right from them, because parents will be at the center, teachers who are at the centers, and then the students are also at the centers. So once they concluded yesterday, I was expecting that they would do something like an exit poll, like you media people will go and ask the students how they felt about the exams and other things. They should have a standard format to get information right from the students, the parents around, and the teachers, and then they will know how the exams was conducted, and based on that, they will be able to improve on the exams next year. These are things that you cannot do without the parents, and I think it's a good thing we're getting them back.
Thank you. Peter, I'll have you hold on, and I'll come back to Gabson in the studio. So Peter has given us a couple of the reforms that he wants to see. From your perspective, now you're back at the table. I have in my hand your operational manual, right? And your objectives are clearly stated here as PTA, that you want to harmonize administrative procedures and NAPTA operation procedures nationwide, ensure comprehensive monitoring and supervision within the NAPTA NCPTA structure, provide accessible and user-friendly facilitation guides for unit friendship, emphasize the critical role of your organization, instill corporate governance, facilitate the development of beneficial projects, and improve formalized operational units across, all of it. Beyond this, what reforms are you looking at? You have your constitution as well, but beyond this, what reforms are you looking at as parents, teacher associations?
Let me first of all thank my colleague. I see him as a parent.
Right.
I don't see him as a think tank. I see him as a parent because whatever he is today is parental guidance that has been able to build him to that level with the teachers' collaboration and then the states also supporting. So first of all, I thank him very much for almost saying most of the things I was saying, alluding to it.
Right.
I think that the Ministry of Education and for the matter the Ghana Education Service and for the matter the government must appreciate the fact that they should not see PTAs only at the school level. Every organization grows. So we cannot be having PTAs only at the school level and say it should remain there. The challenges that PTAs or parents face across the country in public schools are similar. More to the point when they've categorized the schools into category A schools, category B schools, category C schools, indirectly they are telling us that some schools are better off in terms of resource allocation than others. And more to the point, what is sometimes even most annoying and very frustrating is the fact that these government officials who try to engage in state capture and try to put the parents at the back burner, they themselves don't even take their children to the public schools. They carry their children to the private schools. And at that level, whatever they are supposed to do to make sure their children get the best of academic interventions, best of discipline, best of collaboration, they don't say anything there. And for that matter, you don't tie my hands to my back and put me in the boxing ring and turn around and come and accuse me that I'm a poor boxer.
That's how you felt?
That's how we felt. Because in the schools that we find our wars, in most of the public schools and in some of the private schools that our children attend, it depends on the extent of the climate that has been created. We call what we call something school climate. It is a prevailing atmosphere within the school that support and facilitate teaching and learning and discipline and moral standards. So if the school itself, the heart of the community is not in that school, the climate in that school is very poor. Everybody does what he wants. You don't get effective supervision. You don't get teacher learning resources. The children don't get to school on time. When there are issues, immediately the school administrators, the first point they have to call, if they are not getting access, after who is government? It's me and you.
That's right.
We contribute the tax to put people there and say, do this for us. If they are not able to do it after 4 years, we take them off.
Psychologically, how do we prepare our children to go and sit for these exams? Psychologically.
I just think that the stakeholders, we must come together. In every system that a child is attending school, we should look at that system and put exams that suits their system for them to be able to write. Because if a child is in a community called Kajiji, that is Senate East. There are islands there. And the child is there attending school and is going to write the same exams with a child in Modern Star. My brother, let's be honest. The levels are not the same. The preparations are not the same. So we need to all agree that, look, if government admits that the school facilities across the country are not at the same parents, then when we are also setting exams, we should set exams according to the levels of the children. That is where you can actually see whether the child is actually performing or not. You go to a school, the teachers are there's overstaffing. And in other schools, there's understaffing. In some place, over allocation of resources. In some place, the place is under-resourced. In some communities, the teachers are overstressed. And excuse my language, you go to some districts, GES itself has categorized those districts as districts that need special intervention. And for that matter, even the teachers who are there, they should be given some special allowances to motivate them. Apart from the allowance, are the resources also being allocated? Does allowance come? Does the resource come? So when we go to the school as parents, and the teachers, because they've been whipped in line by a code of conduct of the Ghana Education Service that they shouldn't divulge official information to outsiders.
Right.
We are not outsiders. Excuse my language. If not for us, GS will not be there.
Right.
If not for us, there will not be a minister called Minister for Education. It is we who take our children to the schools and we create jobs for them.
Okay.
And for that matter, that is the level that we expect parental voice to set the pace for education.
But you say currently you are being seen as outsiders.
We are being treated as outsiders. I can just say that this current government has given us much of a listening ear. But we've also been observing the space for the past 6 months to see, because the National Education Forum were fully involved in drafting their manifestos. They all invited us, and we realized that most of the things that have been captured in the manifesto, this whole thing about the restoration of PTAs came from us, because they asked for a blueprint and we gave them a document. We told them things they should do. We are just looking at this 6 months. You need to give them time to be able to adjust and then pick up. And we are happy, and let me say this on behalf of Ghanaian parents, to commend the president and his team that so far they've made parents to feel that yes, development in education together we build. One head does not go into council. And in the PTA space, nobody should think that the PTAs of yesterday, which was even more resourceful, cannot be more resourceful today when we have more landed parents. We are more, because in the whole educational space called the Parent-Teacher Association, the parents, you have all categories of parents there. You are there as a journalist. When you go to a PTA meeting, you bring your knowledge in journalism and investigation to bear to make sure that when we are taking a decision, we don't take a decision which will be hook, line, and sinker. We take a decision that is well thought through, and then we'll make sure that when we are fixing dues and levies to support the school, we'll fix dues and levies that will make sure at the end of the day, we get some additional support for the schools. So for some time now that the PTAs went nosedive, you agree with me that even resource allocations to the schools had gone down. And what is even more annoying and disgusting is that the foundation is weak. We are looking at secondary education. We are not talking about basic education. And the PTA started from the basic schools before it transferred into the secondary schools and then the technical vocational schools.
Let me bring in Peter. Peter is back on the line. Peter, welcome. So Mr. PTA President has raised General Secretary has raised a very, very critical point about we overemphasizing and focusing on second cycle institutions and leaving the basic school that actually feeds the second cycle institutions. These BECE leavers or JHS leavers will be the ones that will be feeding the second cycle institutions, but we don't pay too much attention to them. What's your view on that?
I think it is true. Last year, we had some series of conversations in your studio.
Yes, the thought leadership program, right? Yeah,
on basic education funding and all that. Then I think we made considerable points to the fact that truly we have neglected the basic schools, and we put in a lot of resources and other things at the secondary level. So I think the new government, there seems to be new commitments towards the basic school level. Their budget seems to suggest that they're going to do some. They're going to meet a lot of resources to the basic level. So I'm hoping that we would see a turnaround in that perspective. Because if you don't get the foundation right, and I think that is one of the points that we strongly made during those conversations, that the foundation of an educational system is very critical and important. So if you don't get the foundation right, all the other things that you put on it will not stand. And in our educational system, the child does almost 12 to 11 to 12 of his education at the basic level, from KG, nursery to
KG
9.
Yes.
Yeah, he's doing almost 11 years at the basic level. So if he doesn't get a very solid foundation going through the educational system for 11 years, what would the 3 years do? What would the additional 3 years at the secondary school level do? You get the point. So it is important that the government commits a lot to the education at the basic level.
I see.
They are 5 to 6 months in government. Some of us are giving them space to see how
much space. You all seem to be giving the government some space. How much space are we giving this new government?
Yeah, for us, we want to get the government to release the National Education Forum report. That is very important for us because that will be the direction of education for this government, and you wouldn't want to jump the gun.
Right.
So we want to see what the policies were recommended by the forum. Of course, I was part of it.
Right.
And what the government is committing itself to do, and then we will know the gaps and how to also assist in ways to ensure that those recommendations are brought to life, because this is a conversation that everybody in the country, I mean relevant stakeholders, were all part of. So if the government will not stick to those recommendations, then I don't know what recommendations again will the government will pay attention to.
Now, Peter, another angle now that the BECE is over is the school selection. Thankfully, it's been extended to 25th of this month. Now, we know the schools, category A, category B, C, and all of that. Private schools have now been included, some on a pilot basis. What is your view on that?
Well, I was asked this question just about 2 days ago. My initial view is that the government was doing its campaign. They said that they would add private schools.
That's right.
And people have endorsed this government overwhelmingly. You don't expect them to go back on their word. So even if you don't agree in terms of policy, they are fulfilling a promise that they made to the people of Ghana. And you do not have any other thing to do than to support and then guide in its implementation. So I think it's a good thing to make promises and ensure that the promises are fulfilled. I can see that the private schools are very happy. I've spoken to some of my friends in there.
Right.
Samo is just here.
That's
Samo
right.
Is just,
on the Cape Coast Road, right?
Exactly. And go and look at the infrastructure of Samo. The infrastructure of Samo can be compared to a school in major category B or C. But Samo was just left rotting. But I can see that they have been included in the pilot, and it's a good thing,
right? Because
the school is going to get back. When I was in UCC as a student, we used to go there for test service for our Newsday students union. I mean, we used to go there. So we started this free senior high school, and the school virtually collapsed. And so this is what sometimes people talk about, and you don't have experience on the ground. You stand somewhere and say that, oh, this is not true, this is not true. The school virtually collapsed. But now you can see some hope, because they will be getting some students. Some teachers will definitely get space in there to teach.
Right.
There will be some supporting staff being employed. And that is how we also get people employed, and then they get some economic life for themselves. So I think that it's a good thing. The government should just go through proper policies processes, and ensure that the kind of education that is offered to our students in the public schools will be the same in terms of supervision and monitoring and everything at the private school level. And after the pilot, we will see how we go around this. But for me, I think that it is a promise made, a promise kept, and we should support them to get this implemented fully.
Peter, before I let you go, and I'll take the closing thoughts from PTA Secretary General. I always like to call him Chairman or President. He doesn't like that. He likes the one in his Constitution. He likes the one in his Constitution. Peter, children leaving the exam hall to go and engage in galamsey. I mean, I was shocked. I was gobsmacked. I couldn't believe it until I saw the videos myself from our reporters. Did it come to you as a shock as well?
See, let me be frank with you. For me, when I saw this, it just told me that we are failing in our educational system. People go to school basically for private gains. So if you do economics of education, they tell you that there are two reasons why people go to school: for personal benefit or private gains, and then for social benefit or societal gains. So the social benefit is he contributing to the development of the society. But the first and foremost, for the individual benefit, he needs to get work to do, he needs to get well-paid job, he needs to support his family. So if our educational system is not doing this for the individual, people will lose faith in the educational system. And when they lose faith in the educational system, this is what happens. So I think that we need to look at education are we giving our people? Is it fit for purpose? People go to school after doing their first degree, second degree, and they still don't get anything to do. And those that are even employed, they are paid below their qualification. These are conversations that we need to have. And if you get people even telling you that a passport is better than, or a cleaning job outside Ghana is better than having a PhD in Ghana, then that will let you understand the reason why a child will leave BECE exam and go and do galamsey. Because at the end of the day, the society looks at what you are bringing to the house and not the qualification that you have.
Peter Patiante of IFS Stock, we thank you very much indeed for your time. We're grateful.
Thank you.
Now, you have the... Let me ask you my thoughts about this galamsey thing also. How did you feel, first of all, as a parent?
I wasn't surprised.
Why were you not surprised?
They're already happening. They leave exams, internal assessment, they leave and go and look for money because their galamsey economy is better than... They've seen their teachers are not better off.
Really?
They've seen their parents are not better off when they went to school. They've seen people who, through mining gold, whether through legal or illegal means, have been able to put up mansions and live luxurious lives and, excuse my language, whatever the consequences of the actions they do, the repercussions on the environment and the bigger impact on all of us as a country. People flout the law with impunity and they hide under political and other powerful influencers of society to get away with their booty. So the child looks at the paper and he sees that, look, I'm not even adequately prepared for these exams in the first place. So, Charlie, I can't have double lost. What am I doing here? Charlie, let me gamble and see if the paper no go do well. Make I go try the other place. So that is what is happening. And as a country, we should be ashamed of ourselves. And when government is trying upon to make sure that together we can all support to make sure that those children in those areas don't find themselves looking at galamsey at the expense of their future.
Right.
Children who are found in war-torn areas, prone areas like Boko and other places, we should look at their educational future and lay our arms down and look at what we can look. I have a pain in me because I grew up in Boko. Boko virtually is my hometown. Because we grew up there.
Right.
Born and bred there.
Right.
23 years. Look, all the good English I speak or whatever you see me doing, I owe it to my basic education in Boko. Praise me. And I got one of the best grades.
Right.
So when you see that these things happen to the kids,
right,
it tells you clearly that as a nation we are failing. And we will plead with His Excellency the President. He's doing well. We can see that there's some goodwill. But whatever it is, whether people in government, people outside government, because for human beings, it's when a party comes to power that you get to know their real motive for supporting a political party. Some don't support the party because of the manifesto. They support the party because they think that when the party comes, they'll get an opportunity to do some illegality or engage in something, hide under the cloth of political influencers to be able to have their way out. We should be able to make sure that we hold the bull by the horn and make sure that everybody is treated fairly. And let me come back to this private...
private schools inclusion. Right.
I'm very happy with the way my colleague, I call him a parent, spoke. You see, before you criticize a government, you have to check whether the policy or in the intervention it is bringing, was it captured in their manifesto? Was it part of their blueprint?
Right.
If it was part of their blueprint and they were voted for, and they are rolling it out, the best you can do is to look at it and after a period, do an assessment that you can now critique.
Right.
You don't jump into the bandwagon and be speaking. Especially in a country that we believe that there should be public-private partnership. Is that not what is happening there?
That's right.
So what is wrong with public-private partnership in education? What is wrong with our public schools being overstressed? When private facilities are available and then they are not getting opportunity for our wards to go there. And government says, look, I'm providing a subsidy for education. If you want to be part of us, we can afford to give you 1,500.
Right.
If the parent thinks that the private school education there is 3,000, government is giving a subsidy of 1,500.
So you
and they can top up. That is a good call. And I think that we should not even limit this thing to the secondary schools. We should go and pick it from the basic schools. Because the basic schools are overstretched.
Right.
We have a lot of schools under trees.
Right.
Are we discussing that?
I went into one of the classrooms and I had about 65, 70 pupils in one classroom.
So when these things happen, what are the prospects? First of all, it increases access to quality education. 2, it reduces the burden on public schools. 3, it's what we call job preservation. Those people in the private space, it is our duty to collectively to preserve their job. Because if they are jobless, their burden will come to us who are in the public system. And we are already overstressed. So it also brings innovative teaching methods. At the end of the day, we will compare the two systems, what is actually happening. I'll be able to reflect. The public school teachers are being overstressed. There are teachers who are schools that are green, gold, what? There's some schools that the whole year, the teachers don't even have any good rest. So when these things happen, I think that it will help all of us. Pitfalls, maybe funding challenges. Government says, look, this is what I can put on the table. That is why we are piloting. So if government is piloting something, it means that he is doing it so that after a period, we can do an assessment.
Right.
So when we do the assessment, we'll be able to see whether equity and accessibility has been able to help us as a country and all those things. And regulatory framework, there's a policy document on it. And I'm happy that the Ghana Education Service, the Ministry of Education, the Ghana Education Service, and the Free SHS Secretariat, together with the NACOPS and those people in the private space who are managing the private education, they sat around the table to do a discussion to agree on some protocols.
Let me ask you this.
It will help us as a country that if we allow this thing to roll out, then together we can all reflect, but we should all get the blueprint and use it tomorrow to do the tracking, to see whether actually the things that we are doing, we are actually getting the results.
We have 2 minutes left for this conversation. I have 2 questions for you. Number one, your thoughts about children being taught their local language in the schools. For example, you go to schools in Greater Accra region and you find children being taught Asante P or
it's wrong.
P.
I'm against it totally, and we don't support it. God is proud of his language. We should not create an impression that one language is more superior than the others. It's wrong. It's a social misfit. We should not encourage it. We are coming from various backgrounds. Let's use the background in which we are coming to be able to roll the children onto the other distance.
Number 2, school selection. How involved are parents, and what do you advise parents?
Our parents are actually involved. As I speak to you, I'm a teacher. I'm a head teacher, and I head a school, and we have a association COPS, Conference of Heads of Basic Schools. I think I'm the chairman. So I know what goes into it. But the truth of the matter is that parents, for some time, were losing interest in.
Why is that?
Well, because it's like sometimes when they are called, they are only being called to discuss issues about. They brought this thing, but we don't have money to roll it out.
Let's contribute and do silver
They don't
collection.
have a problem contributing, but they just think that it should be done well. We should regulate that space, and that is why we exist. So we'll plead with government that as they are bringing the PTAs back fully, that blueprint of PA document, that we fought it and we battled it and we made the government of the day then to know that they got it wrong and Ghanaians bought into it and then they voted against them. They should put that in down. We have a blueprint. You can see it. We have an operational manual. We have a constitution. They should let us all come together and collaborate. And if there are quacks, parents, excuse my language, within the PTA, we weed them out. If there are quacks, teachers who are trying to take the PTA to create issues, we'll be able to together come together and agree on a common roadmap. Sometimes you'll be there and you hear a regional director of education calling a meeting to impose PTA dues or propose PTA dues on parents. We say, why? The Pre-Tertiary Education Act, where in that space does it tell you that PTA is under you to regulate that space?
We have to go.
If you have taxi drivers association, they regulate their space. If government wants to increase, if they want to increase lorry fares or they have issues with fuel and other things, government sits with them. So we think that this is how we should go. So we are happy the president has taken this bull and instructed. But I think that we should all go to the table.
You want to be part? I think your point is made. Gafson Kofi Raphael is the General Secretary, or Secretary General, I should say, of the National Council of Parent Teacher Association. Thank you very much for your time. Ella, you had Dr. Peter Patti Anti, also Mr. Kapi, of Waik, Ni Amugi. The AMA, good morning to you. We'll take a break. When we see you after the break, we'll be talking about Tuodu Ghana. One of our key sponsors, DHL, is here.